good to see you. I think I recognize a few people that were here last week when we went to Yosemite, and that was a lot of fun. So this week we're going to go to a different park. We're looking at going to the Grand Canyon. As we've seen, it looks like 2 people have been there, and we're going to have everybody that's be there by the end of today. So without waiting any further, we'll just jump right into the fun stuff. So I'm going to share my screen to go to this awesome place in the Grand Canyon. Boom!
Is everybody ready to go on our virtual tour and get started? All right, cool. Michael, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Like Jordan said, I think I recognize a few of you from some of our other tours. Welcome back for those that I do see, and for those that are new, welcome as well. I really like Joshua Tree. It is the closest national park to where we are at, so I'm actually there quite often. I do a lot of rock climbing out there and stuff like that. It's a really, really cool area. It's very unique. And the other cool thing about it is that we get to make, and we're going to see about making some of these little Joshua trees. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we are going to go on a virtual trip into Joshua Tree. So there I am. Okay. So here we go. This is a quick picture of outside of Joshua Tree. So if any of y'all have been to Joshua Tree, like some of y'all said you have been, you've probably seen a lot of stuff like this. This is kind of what we're gonna be looking at. As you can see, we got a lot of rocks that we're gonna be talking about, and we got some pretty unique vegetation. So some of these we can see right here already are Joshua trees. There's some cholla cactuses, some juniper shrubs, stuff like that. And we're also going to talk about some of the animals that we're going to see: tortoises, bighorn sheep, maybe some coyotes, some stuff like that. So this is what the Joshua Tree looks like. Some fun facts about Joshua Tree before we dive into it is Joshua Tree is actually a really big park. It's actually bigger than the entire state of Rhode Island. So it's a pretty big park. There's lots to see and lots to do there, but it is a desert. So like other parks that we've been in, it gets a lot less rainfall. Yosemite was as kind of like an alpine forest environment. Grand Canyon is a desert environment, but it's got that huge river going through. As you can see here, it's pretty dry. It only gets about 5 inches of rain the entire year. Most of that even happens just in like January and February. It gets probably about 75% of the entire rainfall for the whole year. So it's definitely different. Another thing that Joshua Tree so cool is that it's actually not one, but 2 different deserts. You have the Colorado, which is at a low sea level, and then you have the Mojave Desert, which has a high sea level, and right where they meet is Joshua Tree. So you get a lot of cool little ecosystems and things like that. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this then, because the cool part about the Joshua Tree and seeing it all is all of the where's the button? It's down here. It is seeing all of the animals and plants and stuff like that. And the best part to see all of that is where the animals gather for water. So as you can see, we're zooming in all the way into Joshua Tree, and boom, we are landing right here at this area called Barker Dam. So Barker Dam is one of the few places in the park where you can see water gathering. All right, this dam is named after an old rancher there whose last name was Barker. He built this dam so he could create water. It's hard to see it, but behind this rock right here is actually where the dam is. So all of this water is trying to flow from the right all the way down there on the other side of this big rock right here. As you can see, there's plenty of water. You'll see some plants, here. You see a lot of the rocks. Like I said, this is one of the only spots where water actively gathers inside of the park. It was built in about 1900, so about 120 years ago is when this dam was built. And it was built by a rancher because he saw that desert environment we were just talking about. And he said, you know what? This is going to be a good place to raise cows, but the cows need water. So he built this for the cattle. But now, there's no cattle and there's no ranch out at Joshua Tree, but there is this one spot. So oftentimes you can see birds here. You can see bighorn sheep, lots of squirrels and chipmunks and stuff like that will gather all around here. And it looks like it's a very wet environment, but we're going to go to the trail that goes to Barker Dam here. This is only about a half of a mile away. We'll zoom out and zoom right back in. Boom. And this is what it looks like, just about a half a mile away. As you can see, there's definitely no water here. We've got all of these rocks. We've got the plants that we're looking at. And we can even kind of walk along this trail a little until we even get closer to some of the namesake trees. We'll talk a little bit more about the trees in a second. But as you can see, we're coming up on some Joshua trees up here. There might even be some on the other side. Joshua trees are awesome. This park's really, really cool because of the trees and because of the desert and the ecosystem that is here. So as you can see up here, we're coming up on some of these Joshua trees. Take like a mental picture of them because that's one right there. This is what we're going to be making here in a little bit. That one, here's another one coming up on our left here. Boom, some Joshua trees. You also see these little guys right here on the ground are not small Joshua trees. These are a type of yucca. And you also get a type of agave there as well. But these are some of the trails or the vegetation that you're going to see.
I've went to Joshua Tree and gone camping there to see the comet.
Oh, that's cool. That was recent, huh? That comet's still coming around. Thank you for sharing. But yeah, it's a really neat spot and it's a really cool one. Just checking. I know we have a question from Malcolm. Malcolm, was that you that was saying about the camping and the comet? Think so. All right. Well, that's kind of Barker Dam. I want to pop over to the next part of the park, which is Keys View. So we're going to zoom out and go to the south end of the park at Keys View. Boom. So this is the highest point of elevation in Joshua Tree. We can look all around and see a big view. So this is on the south side of the park. We're looking actually south of the park right now into the Coachella Valley. This mountain range way over here is near like San Jacinto, Mount Idlewild, those type things. And this is a good spot to come up at the park and see some of these big elevations. As you can see, it's fairly high, so the vegetation looks different. We've got some juniper trees. The rocks even look a little bit different. It's a very popular spot of the park, so you'll see a lot of different people and a lot of tourists coming here doing some hiking, some stuff like that. You'll even see these guys right here, which are called cairns. These are piles of rocks that look like they're towers of rocks. They're built by hikers to help you identify where the trail is. They look really pretty, but they're also like trail markers because you don't always have a tree or something that you can mark the way at. So you build these towers of rocks called cairns, and that's how you navigate across desert landscapes. So if you're ever in Joshua Tree and you see a cairn, it's cool to look at it, but definitely don't kick it over. It's really tempting to, but if you do that, you might end up having someone get lost. There's actually a hiker that just this past week got lost in Joshua Tree, and he fell down and hurt his leg, and he had to wait for about 2 days before someone could come and find him. But he's doing okay now. Fortunately, he had lots of water. So this, like I said, is Keys View. You get some really cool views of the mountains and the mesas surrounding Joshua Tree. But some of you said that you've been camping in Joshua Tree. We're going to go to one of the more popular campsites in the park. And this is Jumbo Rocks Campground. Looks like a lot of rocks, right? That's basically what it is. So you can see some people camping down here. If we look around, we'll be even able to see some more. Here's some campsites and some picnic tables. Looks like we got some people camping up at the top and everything as well. So this is a popular campsite, mostly because the rocks are so unique here. So if we flip all the way back over here, you see all of these rocks. So cool. We're going to talk a little bit about these rocks right now, because Joshua Tree is one of the only spots in the world that have this type of rock. This rock is called a Monzo granite. So it is a type of granite, but it's a little bit different than other granites that you'll see. It was formed about 100 million years ago. What happened is all of this molten liquid kind of oozed up the Earth's crust, and once it got a little bit closer to the surface, it cooled rapidly and then hardened. But that's not where it ended. After it hardened, there's all these tiny little cracks all throughout the rock. It used to all kind of look like this one. So you see there's some tiny little cracks right here. Can't even really get like a finger in them. They're super, super small. Well, what happened over 100 million years is water and erosion would dig into those cracks, and eventually those tiny little cracks like this right here would grow up into these big cracks like this, and all of these little diagonal things. After these rocks were kind of created like that, and the Earth's crust continued to move and tectonic plates pushed some stuff around, it pushed these rocks up. So that's why you have these big piles of rocks all over the park. It's because these cracks cut them in, and they cut these holes in them, and then the Earth pushed these rocks up. So here's some more example of these rocks just cracked open and just sitting all one on top of another, one on top. Pretty neat. If you do have, just a quick thing, if you have your annotation on, make sure you turn that off so we're not getting some marks on the screen so everybody can see. But I do want to show you another really, really cool rock, and this is one of my favorite rocks in the park, and you can really see where these cracks in the rock have created some really cool formations, which in this case, it's arch rock. So this is arch rock. This is a pretty neat little rock. It is made the same way all those other cracks are. So we had a big rock that was come across, and then we had a few little cracks basically that were formed kind of in the middle of that rock. And what would happen is over time, those cracks would have water run through it and wind and create all of this erosion, where eventually these guys right here, these pretty big looking boulders, were actually connected to the bottom of this arc. And over time, the cracks that were connected to them grew bigger and bigger and bigger until they just, boop, fell right off. So that's the cool, some cool geology about Joshua Tree. Really neat stuff and really fun rocks. This rock is super sticky. So some rocks like river stones are really like wet and slippery, and they're hard to kind of keep your balance on. These guys have a lot of texture. Think about them like a lot of like thick sandpaper, where it just sticks to you and it doesn't really move. It's pretty cool. But that's enough about rocks, right? Let's talk about a little bit more maybe living things. How about this one's fun, the Choyo Cactus Garden. So this flat's really, really, really cool. So I told you that this is one of the the deserts there's a high desert and a low desert. Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. Just again, remember everybody, please do not put these the drawings on. I know it might seem fun, but we want to make sure that we are trying to be respectful for the people that are watching. So with that being said, I want to tell you about the Cholla Cactus Garden. So the Cholla cactus is these guys that you're seeing right here. It's all of these little guys. These are all Cholla cactuses. They're also named teddy bear cactuses. As you can see, they look super soft. Well, watch out, they're not, because they're also nicknamed jumping cactus. They won't jump out at you, but they're very, very sensitive. So if you get really close, a lot of times there's like a little trigger on them that will create a, hold on one second, sorry. There we go, perfect. Okay, so what these, they're called jumping cactuses because what'll happen is when you get really close, there's like a trigger that'll like pop the cactuses off and it'll attach to you. And they're really sharp and pokey. It'll be pretty uncomfortable to touch them, but they're really pretty to look at. As you can see, there's lots of them here. You will see these types of cactuses in the Colorado desert. So the Colorado desert is the lower desert that lives in Joshua Tree. So if you see a lot of these guys, you can tell that you're in the Colorado ecosystems. Now notice, if you look around, we don't really see any Joshua trees. Joshua trees are in the other one, which is the Mojave Desert. So that's one way that you can tell which desert that you're in based off of the vegetation. You can see Cholla cactuses, you're in lower elevation. If you can see Joshua tree, you're in higher elevation. If you see both of them kind of together, then you're kind of where these two deserts are blending in. So let's check out one more spot before we start looking at some of the animals. So we're going to go all the way to Willow Hole. So Willow Hole is another spot where you can get a little bit of vegetation or a little bit of water. So there's a little bit more vegetation. But as you can see, we don't see any Cholla cactuses. What we're seeing here are some juniper trees, some shrublands, some things like that. That's a good indication that we are in the Mojave Desert. So you could see the difference between some of this desert and some of the desert in the Cholla. It's just the different types of stuff. You can learn a lot about where you're at based off looking at the trees. You can tell what type of rainfall it gets, how much shelter it gets, and wind and things like that. So trees are really neat to look at, and they're definitely one of the cool parts about the Joshua Tree National Park. So let's do this. We've talked about some rocks. I've shown you some rocks. I've shown you some vegetation. Who wants to see some animals? Yeah. Let me show you some pictures of what some of these animals look like in Joshua Tree. So we're going to look at some of the animals that you're going to find in Joshua Tree, talk a little bit about them, and then we're going to look at some of the plants, and then we're going to make our Joshua Tree. So let's go ahead and start looking at some of these guys. So this is a desert tortoise. These are definitely not turtles. Turtles are a little bit more water aquatic stuff. These are tortoises. So they look like turtles, but they live on land and they dig holes like these guys are going into. And that's where they live. So if you're ever in the desert and you see a big old hole, the chances are that tortoises made that hole. Doesn't necessarily mean they're still living there, because a lot of times if the tortoises live or move, other things will move back in. But a lot of times the tortoises dig those holes. Use those two big front paws that you see, and they'll dig out just like you're swimming, and dig through the ground and create those holes. So desert tortoise is definitely one that you can see out there. If you're ever out there, you want to make sure that you're driving real slow on the roads, because they're endangered and they're very slow. So they're If you're not watching out for them, unfortunately, a lot of them actually do get hit by cars. So you just need to make sure you're watching out for them. So desert tortoises are one. Another really fun animal is Nelson's bighorn sheep. So these guys are really big. They're definitely bigger than your average sheep. They're about the size of a person. And they travel in herds, like you see. There's even a young one on the right side of that picture. And they're kind of all over the park. They like areas of higher elevation more. So they're going to be more in the Mojave Desert part. They're going to be more in areas where there's mountains. So not necessarily flat land. They like hills and rocks and things like that. They're not as common to see because they don't really like people. So if you go to spots of the park like Jumbo Rocks, for instance, that's like really popular for people, the sheep know people are going to be there and they try not to go there very often. So you'll have to find like lesser known hiking trails to see bighorn sheep. Other animals out at Joshua Tree Park are coyotes. So you'll see packs of coyotes. I've seen a pack of a coyote once. I was camping. I had to get out of my tent in the middle of the night to make sure that some of my food was packed away. And I saw a pack of about 30 coyotes just running around the campsite. It was pretty cool. I was really excited. I wasn't too worried about it. Coyotes are pretty scared of people. So I just kind of made some noise and they ran off. But you'll definitely see some coyotes and you'll hear coyotes too at night. They like to hunt small mammals. So there's like jackrabbits out there, chipmunks, things like that. Lizards, they'll even go for. They like those type things. And like I said, they hunt in packs. I mentioned this next one, but chipmunks. This is one of my favorite animals that I can find out in Joshua Tree. They're just so darn cute, right? They're tiny, tiny little guys. Think the size of like a squirrel's tail. That's the entire chipmunk. They run around all the rocks. They make fun of me. A lot of times when I'm working really, really hard on like a rock climb, I'll have one just scurry up the wall right beside me. Like he's kind of like, look, I'm better than you. And then he makes me feel sad. But chipmunks don't have the best life because our last animal that we're going to check out here in Joshua Tree is a rattlesnake. So this particular rattlesnake is a speckled rattlesnake. There's a couple of different species of rattlesnakes that are actually out at Joshua Tree, but you definitely want to be careful when you're out at Joshua Tree because of these snakes. They're venomous and when they hurt or when they bite, like you'll have to go to the hospital, but just give them plenty of room and they won't bother you. Malcolm, do you have a question?
Rattlesnakes are very dangerous. I know how you know if they're nearby because they rattle.
That's true. If you look at the back of this rattlesnake's tail, you can see this very end right here. That's like a different color basically than the rest of the snake. That's actually his rattle. So if he's threatened or feeling scared, he'll take that end of that tail and just start shaking it. And it's like you're shaking like a can with like quarters or something, and it makes a lot of noise. That's what you hear when you hear the rattlesnake. And whenever you hear that, you should stop moving and look around and look for it because you don't know if you need to go backwards or forwards. But find out where that snake is and give him plenty of room. If you get close to it, then like it will potentially strike. But like I said, like as long as you give it its room, it's fine. Oh yeah, so Amanda said she saw a rattlesnake on a trail before and it was protecting its nest. That's true. Rattlesnakes aren't typically known as like aggressive snakes. They're not gonna like find and chase you down. They'll only like really defend it themselves or their nest. So that's why you just want to give them plenty of room. So we've seen some snakes, we've seen some mammals, we've seen some tortoises. We're gonna look at a few plants and then we're gonna get ready to make one. So we talked a little bit about this one. This is a Cholla cactus. It is also known as a jumping cactus. It looks really, really soft, but those things jump right out. So make sure you give them lots of room too. They're really, really pretty plants though. Another plant that you'll see out there is a juniper pine. So this is actually a juniper pine actually out at Joshua Tree. They're pretty cool because the desert environment that they like, as you can see, it looks like there's no ground, just a bunch of rocks, and that's a pretty big tree. So they're pretty resilient. And then the last one I want to point out is the Joshua tree. So these are really cool trees. They're part of the yucca family. They're all over the high desert of California. I've seen them all over the place. And they're pretty distinctive. So once you know what a Joshua tree looks like, that's what they look like. There's no other tree that even is close to it. So with that being said, I think we're going to try to make a Joshua tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my camera ready to make it. While I'm getting my camera ready so you can see what I'm doing, I want y'all to grab your pipe cleaners. So if you've got your pipe cleaners, get them handy. If you need to run and grab them real quick, grab them. This should take me about like 20 seconds. So bear with me real quick. And then I'm going to get this going. Select record button on the side. This guy. There we go. And then I'm gonna go here and press.
What are we doing exactly?
We're gonna make a Joshua tree. So this guy right here is what we are going to be making. So this is
I
Joshua.
don't have any materials.
What's that?
I don't have any materials.
Oh no. We sent out a list earlier in the week about trying to get some. So if you have some pipe cleaners around the house, definitely see if you can run and grab them real quick. We need about 10 of them. I've got mine right here. I've got about 5 brown ones and about 5 green ones, but you can make your tree whatever color that you want to make them. Okay.
I don't think we have any of those.
Oh, that's a bummer. I'm sorry, man.
I think the person that I know who has them is my school.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm gonna just keep on rolling with making this guy. And if your stuff, follow along with me. Okay. So if you look in the chat, Jordan just said it's okay if you don't have any. What we're doing is we're recording these guys, and then we're going to send this out to you after we're done. So what you can do is you can rewatch this, and you can grab the pipe cleaners then and make your Joshua tree for that time. So if you've got your stuff, we're going to go ahead and get started. What we're going to do first is make the trunk and the branches. Okay, we're going to worry about the leaves later. So take whatever you're making for the leaves, just kind of put them aside right now, and we're going to deal with the trunk and the branches. What you're going to do is step 1 is you're going to take 3 of these guys, and we're going to use these to make the trunk. So take 3 of them, put them kind of together so you've got them all close, and you're going to give yourself about like a quarter of a room from the end, and we're going to eventually split these guys. So for now, grab it, and then the rest of this, we're going to twist it up. So what we're doing is we're trying to make,
Brown one.
it's doing some weird things. 1 second, everybody, if this isn't being. All right, we're good. Sorry about that. As the outdoor guys, sometimes I don't get along with technology. So we're going to keep.
So we have 2 of the brown ones.
You have 2 of the brown ones? If you only have 2, that's okay. I'm using 3, but you can use 2. It's whatever you have. And you're going to twist them almost all the way to the end until you have about the same amount of distance. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold that over, and then you're going to twist all of that again. So when you're done with this part, you should have like a thick spot here, and then you should have these guys at the end that you can kind of flip out. And this is going to be like the root system for your tree. Okay, so it'll be just like this. So you'll have a thick spot or a thick trunk that's twisted. It's got maybe like a little hole in the top, just a small one. And then you'll have these guys that you spread out for the roots. How's everybody doing? We working on it? All right. Looks like most people are kind of caught up with us. So what we're going to do next is we're going to start attaching the branches to our trunk. So we're going to bring these two guys over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut one of these in half, because if you noticed when you looked at the Joshua trees, they didn't all have these like perfect branches. They were all weird and changing in different angles and all sorts of stuff, right? So we're going to have some different size ones. So I'm going to take a pair of scissors and I'm going to take one of these guys and I'm just going to cut it right in half. It doesn't have to be right in exact size, just kind of ballpark it right in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our long one and our two short ones, and we're going to put these guys through that hole that we have in our trunk. We're going to put them about where they're all about halfway through. So it's looking like that. Then we're going to fold them up and give them a twist to where they stay in the same spot. So you're poking those branches through and giving them a twist. If it seems loose and they seem like they're going to fall, just maybe give them another twist. You just kind of want them fairly tight so they'll stay in place. So at this point, this is what you should kind of be looking like. We've got a root system down here. We have our trunk. And then we've got a couple of branches up at the top, about 6 of them. We'll only end up using 5. So if you have one that's particular short, like this guy right here on mine is fairly short, I'm going to even combine him with another one of these to get a little bit more strength. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. So we've got our roots, we've got our trunk, we've got our branches. It's time we start making our leaves. So go ahead and grab whatever color, whatever one you're using for your leaves. And we're going to do these one at a time. So I'm going to take one branch or one of these pipe cleaners. I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to take my scissors again and I'm going to cut that guy. So then I've got 2 of them. And then I'm going to take these guys and do the same exact thing. So I'm going to fold them in half, take my scissors, and chop. So then I'll end up with 4 about the same length little quarter pipe cleaners. Now it's time to attach them. So here's what we'll do. We're going to grab one of these branches, and near the end of it, I'm going to put like a little kind of hook in it that looks just like that. I'm going to take my 4 branches, or 4 like leaves, put them right in that hook, and I'm going to fold that hook down and give it like a twist or 2 to keep those guys in place. So this is where we should be right there, just like that. And now I'm going to take this guy and fold it up kind of away from the branch or away from the trunk. And then I'm going to give this guy like a twist just to keep those things in place. And then I'll just kind of arrange these guys in just like a poking out fashion. And there we have our first branch with leaves from our Joshua tree. Everybody with me? Feeling all right? See, we're still working a little bit. That was a lot. That's okay, because basically we're just going to be doing that over and over again until we've got our completed Joshua tree. So if you kind of got lost or I moved a little too fast, I'm going to do the same thing again. So I'll show you that another time. I've got my pipe cleaner. I'm folding it in half. Cutting it. So I now have 2. Folding those 2 in half. Cutting both of those. So now I have 4. Gonna go for a branch. put a little hook in it. Take all 4 of these, put it right there, twist that. So that's where we're at there. And fold them up, give it a little twist, and arrange the branches how I want them. Boom. And that's where we're at. So we should have a root system, a trunk, and then some branches, and 2 of them should even have some leaves on them. So keep going like that until all of your branches have leaves on it. So I'm gonna do it, we got 3 more to do. I'm gonna move a little bit quicker this time just so we can go. So I'm gonna go cut that in half. I'm gonna do the same thing and cut these in half. Make a hook, connect these guys to it, give it a little twist, fold the branches up, give the branches a little twist, and rearrange the leaves. Nice. Does anyone have any questions? Are we doing good so far? All right, I'm going to keep moving then. We got 2 more to go. Fold in half and cut. Fold in half and cut. Take a branch, give it a hook, connect these 4, give it a twist, fold them up, give it another twist, and then arrange the branches. Nice. All right. I think we got 1 more. Last one. Fold in half. Cut. Fold in half. Cut again. Give our last branch a little hook. Connect these 4 in. Fold them up, twist them on, and then spread them apart. All right, so if you're tracking with me, we almost have, at this point, a completed Joshua tree. So what we've got is we have a root system, we have trunk, and then we have about 5 branches that all have leaves on them. So at this point, the only thing we have left to do is to make your branches do what they want to. So if you've seen a lot of the pictures of the Joshua trees, they all kind of looked a little different, right? You can make yours look however you want to. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have these smaller ones, maybe poking around and kind of going up. I think this long one right here needs to be bent a little bit and then poking in that direction. And then I think this long one over here, I'm probably going to have almost going straight up, just as high as it'll go. And there you have your Joshua tree. Does anyone want to show their tree and show kind of how it went? We still working on them a little bit? Does anyone have any questions that I can help you out with?
Can I make my own tree?
Of course, whatever tree you want to make. Does anyone have any weird colors? Like pink leaves or blue trees?
Caitlin, I saw that you made a tree. Do you want to share yours? Show it on the camera.
Oh, like that. That's a cool looking tree.
Does anybody else want to share their tree? Does anybody have any questions? Penny and Dorothy, I see that you have a tree going on there. Do you want to share yours with us? They're like, no, they're still working on it. No problem at all. My tree looks pretty funny. I don't have any leaves on mine. I didn't get to that step, so you're all doing an outstanding job. I believe this was our last activity for the day. So does anybody have any questions about Joshua Tree, any of the things that you saw today? Sanvi, do you have a question? You could go ahead and unmute.
Why?
Why do you have to give the rattlesnake some space?
I believe the question is why do you have to give rattlesnakes some space? So rattlesnakes have been known to bite people, and they're venomous. So when they bite you, it kind of makes you sick. So what you want to make sure you do is if you do see one, just make sure you give it some space so it doesn't bite you. Most wild animals don't want to hurt people. They're just really scared of us. So if you get really close to it, they'll kind of like attack you, but really they're just defending themselves. So make sure that you give those snakes and those things plenty of space so they don't hurt you kind of on accident, basically. Are there any other questions or anything about Joshua Tree or whatnot that I can answer?
Malcolm,
I know someone that lives in Texas, and there's a lot of snakes there.
Yeah, there's a lot of snakes all over the country. I think Alaska is actually the only state that doesn't have snakes, which is pretty interesting. So there's snakes all over. So whether you're going hiking in Joshua Tree or somewhere else, you just got to make sure that you're keeping your eye out for them. Amanda, you also had a question.
Can Joshua trees be found anywhere else in the world?
Yeah, so there's a lot of Joshua trees, obviously, in Joshua Tree. But like I said, any high desert environment, you can find them in. So I've seen Joshua trees all the way up in like the southern end of the Sierra Nevada mountains, which is about 3 hours north of Joshua Tree. They're also a little bit east of Joshua Tree National Park as well. So you see a lot of them in the southeast in a high, cold desert environment. Are there any other questions?
well, it doesn't seem like we have any more questions. So we'll go ahead and close it out for today. I hope you all enjoyed the tour. Make sure you give Michael a round of applause. Yeah, thank you for coming, Malcolm. We definitely appreciate it. Cool. I hope you all enjoyed the tour today. We do have one more tour next week where we're going to the Everglades. So go ahead and make sure that you sign up for that one too if you want to go on more outdoor adventures.
Where are we going?
We're going to this cool place called the Everglades. So make sure you check it out next week and come join us for our next tour. Aside from that, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you, everybody.